The galaxy was vast and ancient, filled with civilizations whose histories spanned tens of thousands of years. In the grand halls of interstellar diplomacy, where countless species gathered, one thing was certain: humans were the subject of amusement. At the Galactic Assembly on the starship Elysium, diplomats from the Andari Valri and Morvac species exchanged quiet chuckles as a human envoy stepped forward. The humans, with their comparatively recent emergence into space travel, were dismissed as brash and uncivilized, a young species playing at galactic politics. Ambassador Rin of the Andari spoke first. His voice silk over steel. The humans, despite their enthusiasm, lack the refinement and experience we hold dear. Their technology is archaic, their customs unsophisticated. His counterpart from Velra, a slender, blue-skinned figure with shimmering eyes, added, their tendency toward conflict and emotional impulsiveness makes them unreliable partners. A murmur of agreement rippled through the assembly. The humans' representatives remained silent, absorbing the sting of derision, but aware their time had not yet come. Back on Earth, the stories of these encounters made headline stories of alien mockery, skepticism, and dismissive laughter. The galaxy had written humanity off as a curiosity, a species destined to remain on the sidelines. Yet beneath the surface, the people of Earth were preparing. Scientists in sprawling labs pushed the boundaries of physics and engineering, their experiments quiet but relentless. Military commanders drilled their troops in tactics that blended discipline with unpredictability, forging warriors who could adapt and overcome. In the bustling cities, children grew up hearing stories not of alien superiority, but of human tenacity, the unyielding spirit that had shaped their history. They learned that humanity's greatest strength was not in ancient lineage or flawless technology, but in determination and the refusal to be dismissed. At the heart of Earth's secret efforts was the project, codenamed Vanguardan Initiative, to develop a fleet capable of defending human interests and demanding respect. The fleet would be unlike anything the galaxy had seen: nimble, efficient, and powered by innovations that seemed to blend science with the human will itself. Despite the jeers from distant stars, humans did not falter. Instead, they studied their mockers, learned from their missteps, and quietly built a future where laughter would turn to silence, silence to awe. For centuries, the galaxy had mocked humanity, but the humans knew one thing: when the storm finally broke, their wrath would come down with unstoppable force. Deep beneath the surface of Earth, in vast underground complexes shielded from prying eyes, humanity's brightest minds and fiercest warriors worked tirelessly. The Project Vanguard was no longer just a plan whispered in secret corridors, it was becoming reality. General Marcus Kane stood before a massive holodisplay, his eyes sharp and unyielding as he watched the schematics of the fleet unfold. Sleek warships with adaptive shields, engines fueled by new energy sources, and weapon systems designed for precision and power reach was a testament to human ingenuity and determination. Beside him, Dr. Amina Shah, chief engineer of the project, pointed to a cluster of ships. These vessels aren't just faster or stronger. Our AI integration allows them to anticipate enemy moves in real time, adapting to tactics that would overwhelm other fleets. Marcus nodded. That adaptability, combined with human unpredictability, will be their greatest weapon. In training grounds scattered across the globe, soldiers ran drills unlike any other. Cadets faced simulations of alien combat scenarios, learning to think on their feet and improvise. Their instructors pushed them to master not just weapons, but psychology, teamwork, and resilience. Captain Alina Torres led one such unit. Her voice was calm but firm as she guided her troops through a complex exercise. The enemy expects us to be reckless. Show them the opposite: precision, patience, and relentless pressure. That's how we win. The soldiers moved with a fluidity that belied their rigorous training, combining their individual strengths into an unstoppable force. They knew the galaxy laughed at them, but they also knew something else, that laughter was a mistake. Meanwhile, Earth's diplomats worked quietly, forging hidden alliances with smaller, overlooked species, those who had suffered under the thumb of the galaxy's great powers, or had reasons to support a rising human presence. These alliances, fragile but growing, would become vital when the storm broke in a secure command center. Admiral Li Wei monitored encrypted transmissions from coalition partners. Our network expands daily. They see what humanity is becoming, force to be reckoned with. Back on the surface, humanity's everyday life carried on under the stars. Cities thrived, families lived, and dreams took flight. But everywhere, the hum of progress was palpable. Every breakthrough in physics, every upgrade in technology, every soldier trained was a step closer to a new dawn. Despite the outward calm, the galaxy's disdain was a constant reminder. Humans were seen as reckless, as fighters without honor, as a species doomed to self-destruction. But what the galaxy failed to see was that humanity's strength lay not in perfection, but in their flaws, their passion, their unpredictability, their refusal to surrender. The Vanguard fleet was the embodiment of that spirit, a storm forged in shadows, ready to break the chains of mockery and claim humanity's place among the stars. And soon, the galaxy would witness it. The colony of New Horizon orbited a quiet, blue-green planet on the fringes of known space far from Earth, yet a vital outpost for humanity's growing reach. It was a place where hope and hard work had built a thriving settlement, a beacon of human determination. But peace was fragile, late one cycle. Without warning, the sky above New Horizon ignited with streaks of enemy fire. The Talzer fleet, long known for their arrogance and cruelty, had arrived with intentions clear. Crushed the human outpost and sent a message to the rest of the galaxy. Talzer commanders expected an easy victory. Their ships were larger, more numerous, and armed with weapons that had shattered entire planets before. But what they did not expect was the ferocity and cunning of the humans defending their own. Colonel Auric Dane, commander of New Horizons defenses, coordinated his forces. From the battle command center, his voice was calm but resolute over the comms. Prepare for engagement. Protect the colony at all costs. The Talzer launched their assault with brutal precision, targeting supply depots and communication arrays. Explosions rocked the surface as the colony scrambled to repel the attack. But the humans fought back with a storm of their own making. Hidden missile platforms, cloaked fighter squadrons, and adaptive drone swarms turned the tide. Human pilots, trained in the Vanguard program, executed daring maneuvers that confused and disoriented the enemy. Lieutenant Mara Voss led one such squadron. Her voice cut through the chaos. Flank left, hit their rear formations. They're not prepared for this level of coordination. Talzer ships faltered, their formations breaking as human fighters slipped through defenses. Strategic strikes crippled enemy vessels, forcing a retreat. The unexpected resistance stunned the Talzer commanders. Their confidence shattered, replaced by cautious disbelief. Back on Earth, news of the battle spread quickly. For the first time, humans weren't just fighting to survive. They were fighting to prove their place in the galaxy. In the aftermath, Colonel Dane addressed his weary troops. Today, we showed the galaxy that we are not the species to be mocked. We fight not just for survival, but for respect. The ripple effect was immediate. Alien media outlets scrambled to report the unexpected defeat of a Talzer fleet by what they had called primitive humans. Discussions shifted from derision to wary curiosity across star systems. The murmurs began. Maybe humans were not what they seemed. Meanwhile, Earth's leaders saw the battle as a clear signal it was time to step from the shadows. Admiral Li Wei convened a strategic council. New Horizons defense is proof that our preparations work. But this is only the beginning. We must show the galaxy the true strength of humanity. Plans accelerated. The Vanguard fleet, once a secret, was now ready to launch in the shadows of space. Humanity's wrath was gathering momentum, quiet, calculated, and unstoppable. The galaxy had laughed for centuries now. It would listen. The Vanguard fleet emerged from Earth's shadow like a blade drawn from its sheath. Sleek, silver, and deadly. Its warships moved with purpose, no longer hidden, no longer in waiting. For the first time, humanity declared its presence not with words, but with thunder. Across the galactic network, news feeds exploded with footage of the fleet entering contested sectors, areas where pirates, raiders, or hostile empires had ruled unchecked. The response was swift. Where others hesitated, humans acted. Captain Elena Torres, now a fleet commander, led the strike group Helios. Their target, a Velrax outpost notorious for capturing civilian transports and selling their crews into servitude. The Velrax had always seen humans as easy prey and other species too disorganized to respond. They were wrong. Torres issued one command: no warnings, no speeches. Execute the plan. Human ships enter the Velrax system with precision, disabling long-range sensors. In seconds, orbital platforms were neutralized with pinpoint railgun bursts. Fighter wings danced between cruiser fire, overwhelming the enemy with a mixture of speed and unpredictability. On the ground, elite human units deployed in near silence. Within hours, the outpost was secured. The captives were freed. Defenders were disarmed and sent to their leadership with a simple message. This was restraint. News of the lightning-fast assault spread faster than light. Entire sectors began whispering the same question. How had humans advanced so far, so quickly? But the strikes didn't stop in a border region plagued by a long-standing conflict between two alien empires. A human task force entered as peacekeepers. They disabled both sides' orbital weapons and issued a ceasefire. When questioned by both governments, humanity responded not with diplomacy, but with proof, a full log of each empire's war crimes and an ultimatum to withdraw from civilian zones. Both sides complied. Quietly and without resistance, the galaxy watched in disbelief. This was not the same humanity they had laughed at for generations. This was a new force, measured, coordinated, and undeniably powerful. At the Galactic Assembly, the tone shifted. The laughter faded. The same species that had once ridiculed humans now held emergency sessions to discuss them. Ambassador Theric of the Zevrani Confederacy spoke in hushed tones. Their wrath isn't reckless. It's strategic, controlled. They strike only when necessary, but when they do, no one can stop them. Alien leaders debated how to respond. Some feared this new human confidence. Others admired it. But no, one could ignore it. Meanwhile, back aboard the Vanguard flagship, Admiral Leeway addressed the crew. We do not conquer. We do not seek revenge. But make no mistake, if they push us, we push back harder. This galaxy must learn that respect is not given, it's earned. From colony worlds to distant outposts, human citizens felt a new kind of pride. They were no longer outsiders. They were no longer the punchline of the galaxy's jokes. Their resilience had become their reputation, their ingenuity, their armor. The storm was only beginning, and the galaxy, once so confident in its superiority, now braced for what would come next. In the border systems near the Eridani Vale, an uneasy quiet had settled, a silence, not born of peace, but anticipation. The galactic powers had begun to reposition their fleets, reinforce old alliances, and whisper warnings about the humans. But humanity had already moved. The Vanguard fleet, now fully deployed, surged into the contested Eridani Sector, a region long dominated by the powerful Core Empire. The Core, proud and militaristic, had openly mocked humanity for generations. Their propaganda broadcasts once called humans fragile fireflies burning bright. But briefly, they were about to learn otherwise. General Marcus Kane oversaw the largest human operation yet. From the bridge of the ISS Valiant, he stood before a holomap displaying the Core's forward command base orbiting a resource-rich moon. "This isn't a message," he said to his command staff. "It's a correction." The humans struck with precision. Electronic warfare units jammed Core communications, cutting their chain of command. Saboteurs' highly trained insertion teams slipped aboard key Core vessels and disabled systems. From within, the same time, human cruisers unleashed coordinated salvos, targeting weapon banks and shield generators, not life support. The goal was not annihilation. It was demonstration. Hours into the battle, the Core Command Center was paralyzed. Human units had reached every vital location. The enemy's fleet, disoriented and leaderless, retreated in fragments. No capital ships were destroyed. No prisoners were taken. But the message was clear. The Core's lines had been broken. Their dominance shattered. In the aftermath, General Kane ordered a secure transmission sent to Core High Command. It contained a single phrase: "Mockery ends where discipline begins." The galaxy reeled. Analysts on dozens of worlds scrambled to make sense of what they were seeing. Military scholars from ancient empires studied human tactics frame by frame. They saw not raw aggression, but strategy precise. Measured force combined with unpredictable maneuvers. Humanity's ability to act with restraint stunned them even more than its power. They had expected vengeance. They received professionalism. In the Galactic Assembly, a new debate unfolded. Some argued that humans had become a destabilizing force, too bold and too swift. Others claimed that humans had done what older powers failed to do: restore order in regions long lost to lawlessness. Ambassador Kale of the Shalvari addressed the assembly. "We called them reckless, but they are disciplined. We called them primitive, but they are inventive. We feared their emotion, yet it is their will that has changed everything. Perhaps, we misjudged them." On Earth, public sentiment was unified in a way not seen in centuries. Videos of human ships escorting freed civilians from Core detention camps went viral. Survivors of conflict zones sent messages of gratitude. For the first time, humanity was no longer on the defensive. In cities, monuments were quietly erected to honor those who had fallen on the road to this moment. Students studied new histories, ones where Earth was not simply a planet mocked from afar, but a place where something had changed the course of a galaxy. And aboard the ISS Valiant, General Kane gathered his officers for a simple reminder. "This isn't conquest," he said. "This is course correction. For too long, we were pushed back. Now we draw the line, and when we draw it, we hold it." The galaxy watched with wide eyes as humanity's advance continued, not out of pride, but necessity, because for the first time in living memory, a new question had begun to echo in the minds of alien leaders. What if humanity is not just here to survive, but to lead? The Galactic Assembly convened in haste, an emergency session called by the elder races who once controlled the balance of power. The vast chamber and arc of floating platforms orbiting a pulsar at the center buzzed with tension. For centuries, the assembly had been a theater of pride and tradition. Now, for the first time in living memory, the attention of every species was focused on one delegation: humanity. Ambassador Rhea Solari stood before the gathered powers. Her presence was quiet, composed, but there was a weight behind her words that no one could deny. "We came to the stars, not for conquest, but to find our place. You mocked us, dismissed us, even attacked us. We survived all of it, and we learned Now we are here not to ask permission, but to be heard. Her speech sent murmurs through the hall. Even the Andari, once the most vocal critics of humanity, remained silent. Behind the scenes, human diplomats met with alien representatives in private sessions. The message was simple. Humanity was no longer alone and no longer willing to be ignored. For many smaller civilizations who had been overlooked or pushed aside by the great powers, this was a revelation. The humans did not demand submission. They offered cooperation, fairness, and defense for those willing to stand with them. To these marginalized species, humanity was something new, powerful, but principled. Meanwhile, in deep space, the Vanguard fleet expanded its patrols. Not with weapons raised, but with shields extended to protect convoys, rescue trapped ships, and stabilize collapsing systems. The stars that had once been ruled by fear began to breathe again in the Gorth expanse. A once lawless sector plagued by pirate warlords, a coalition led by humanity liberated 5 colonies in a coordinated strike. The operation involved 3 alien factions that had never before cooperated, each guided by human strategy and supported by Earth-built logistics. Captain Elena Torres stood with her new allies as they raised a unified banner above the last freed settlement. This is what the galaxy could be, she said. Not ruled by the oldest or the strongest, but shaped by those who believe in something better. The galaxy watched, and slowly, opinions shifted. Academies that once excluded human thought now studied their tactics and writings. Markets that once ignored Earth's products now traded in human-made goods and technology. Even former rivals began sending envoys, cautiously interested in alliance talks. But not everyone was convinced. In the shadows of distant stars, some ancient powers gathered, uneasy with humanity's rise. They whispered of old wars, of change that came too fast. They feared what humanity represented, not just a new force, but a new idea. That power could come from perseverance, not legacy. Back on Earth, Admiral Li Wei stood before the United Terran Council. "We are being tested again," he said. "Not in battle, but in leadership. The galaxy is listening now. We must show them not just what we can fight against, but what we stand for." Under his command, the Vanguard launched its most ambitious mission yet, a diplomatic tour of former enemy territories escorted not by warships bristling with weapons, but by relief vessels and engineers offering aid and rebuilding. Where the galaxy once saw thunder, it now saw something deeper gathering behind its purpose. Humanity was no longer the outsider. It was becoming the storm on the horizon. Firm, unshaken, and no longer just surviving. They had been mocked. Now, they were shaping the future. The warnings were ignored, even as human fleets patrolled trade routes, mediated conflicts, and offered aid to struggling colonies. Some of the old powers refused to accept the change. To them, humanity's rise was a threat, a disruption of the natural order that had ruled for ages. So, they acted in a calculated strike. A secretive alliance of 3 elder civilizations, the Shirathai, the Orvan Dominion, and the Vosk Triad, launched a coordinated assault on human outposts along the Outer Rim. Their fleets descended without warning, targeting medical stations, agricultural hubs, and diplomatic centers. Not a single warship. Only civilians. The message was clear: step back or be broken. But the response they received was not panic. It was resolve. Within hours, the Vanguard mobilized. Not in chaos, but with methodical, practiced speed. From Earth to distant colonies, ships launched, coordinated across light years by AI-supported command relays. Soldiers who had trained for this exact scenario years before moved into action. Allies, many of whom had once doubted humanity, now stood beside them, asking not if they should help, but where they were needed. General Marcus Kane, now Supreme Commander of the Interstellar Defense Accord, addressed the coalition from the command bridge of the ISS Dauntless. They struck us, believing they could silence what we've become. They targeted our ideals, not our weapons. But they will learn. When we defend what we believe in, we do not hesitate. And we do not fail. The retaliation began not as vengeance, but as justice. In this charade system, human strike teams disabled planetary defense grids without firing a single shot, using non-lethal precision EMPs. They boarded ships, neutralized command centers, and released political prisoners. No cities were leveled. No civilians harmed. But by the end of the operation, the Sharathi's control was gone. In the Orvane sector, coordinated raids severed their supply chains. Human engineers worked side by side with local populations to repair infrastructure left in ruins by years of war. The Orvane governors surrendered within days, realizing their fleets couldn't match the combination of tactical brilliance and moral clarity they faced. And in Vosk space, where the worst of the attacks had originated, human forces acted. With grim determination, stealth frigates bypassed the outer defenses and reached the central warship factory. But instead of destroying it, they took control of it and delivered a message across every known channel. We do not destroy what can be redeemed, but we will not be pushed again. The effect was immediate. The galactic networks, once filled with arguments about whether humans were reckless, now debated a different question. What happens when those who were underestimated become protectors? Alien. Citizens across the stars, long fearful of instability, began requesting human protection over their own governments. Trade surged in Earth's favor. Military academies across the galaxy revised their curriculum, modeling courses after human. Command schools. Even the most reluctant civilizations began reaching out, not out of fear, but out of respect. Back on Earth, there was no celebration, no banners, only quiet acknowledgement that a line had been crossed, one they never wanted to reach, but had crossed with clarity and control. Captain Elena Torres, returning from the front, spoke before the United Terran Council. We didn't ask to be the storm. But when they brought the fire to our doorstep, we made sure it would never come again. Now, the galaxy knows we may be fierce, but we are fair, and we will always choose what is right. The storm had passed, but its echo remained a reminder to the stars that humanity had risen not as a conqueror, but as a guardian, and the sky would never be the same again. The galaxy was quiet, not in silence born from fear, but in a stillness that followed understanding. The storm had passed, and in its place came something unexpected: balance. Humanity had not claimed territory. They had not demanded tribute, nor raised flags over conquered worlds. Instead, they had rebuilt what others had broken. They had defended the forgotten, listened to the ignored, and shown strength without cruelty. For the first time in centuries, old rivalries among alien powers eased. Where once fleets hovered with suspicion near disputed borders, now emissaries met under the protection of human-brokered ceasefires. Commerce flowed more freely. Colonies long left behind by bureaucratic empires were being restored, not by edict, but by shared effort. And at the center of it all stood humanity, no longer a species mocked, no longer a child among giants, but a force for unity. On the new Galactic Council station, an enormous orbiting complex jointly built by dozens of species representatives from every corner of known space met under a single banner. The Council Charter, co-authored by Earth's delegation, was not written in the language of conquest, but of cooperation, fairness, and shared protection. Ambassador Ria Solari addressed the assembly from the central chamber, her words recorded and broadcast across millions of worlds. We came here once seeking a seat. What we found was an opportunity to build something greater than any one species could alone. We are not the rulers of this galaxy. We are its caretakers. Together, Applause rose not just from humans, but from beings who had once doubted. Earth's resolve, General Marcus Kane, now retired, stood quietly in a field outside a school on New Horizon. The same colony that had once been the site of humanity's first major battle. Children of many species played together under a shared sky. Their laughter was honest, their friendships real. Beside him, Captain Alina Torres approached. She looked older, now wiser, but her voice still carried that steady strength. "Do you think they'll remember how it started?" she asked. Kane smiled faintly. "Some will, others won't. That's fine. We didn't do it to be remembered. We did it so they wouldn't have to go through what we did." She nodded. "Still hard to believe, sometimes, that it all changed." "It didn't change," he replied. "We did." Across the stars, monuments were raised not to honor conquest, but to remember unity forged in adversity. One such monument stood in the capital of the Andari Dominion, once one of Earth's greatest critics. Its inscription read, "To the species that was mocked, until it chose not to mock back but to lead forward." Humanity continued to advance, not just technologically, but culturally. Art, music, science, and philosophy from Earth spread among the stars. In turn, humans embraced ideas from every civilization they had touched, weaving themselves into the larger galactic fabric, not as conquerors, but as contributors. Admiral Lee Wei, now head of the Interstellar Accord's Peacekeeping Division, issued a closing statement to mark the first anniversary of the new council. "We are no longer a galaxy of the old ways. We are no longer divided by origin. We are one people, diverse, yes, but united in the belief that no world, no species, deserves to stand alone. That will be humanity's legacy, not the storm, but the shelter that followed it." And so, the galaxy turned. Where once there was mockery, now there was admiration. Where once there was fear, now there was peace. No throne had been claimed. No crown had been worn. Only a species once underestimated who chose not to become what they had been called, but to become something better. Together with the stars, humanity had begun a new age. One not built on wrath, but on resolve.